Shalom Aleichem. I'd like to thank again Hamodia for giving me the zchut, the opportunity to address the wonderful audience. In the beginning of Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah starts by saying, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, and then it continues, Umsara leYeshua, v'Yeshua leZkenim, Zkenim leNeviim, and it continues that throughout the whole Masechet of Pirkei Avot, when every couple or every rabbi, every sage says a different Mishnah, and over there he says, Hu haya omer, or Hem hayu omrim, which means he used to constantly say those ideas. As the Mefarshim explains, Margela bepume, it was a diamond in his hands that used to say consistently, or it was something that Meragla bepume consistently would say it to his crowd of listeners. Now, the Bartanura over here explains in the very beginning, why does it say Moshe kibel Torah miSinai? To teach us that unlike all other Sifrei Musar that were written by the Umot HaOlam, by other nations, which are man-made, over here nothing is man-made. All the Pirkei Avot actually were given to Moshe Rabbeinu in Har Sinai by Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. Which means everything in this Pirkei Avot are messages from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is what the Bartanura says over here in the beginning. But then a question should be asked. Why is it that we see that those couples that we found throughout the Mishnayot, those are the ones that giving out the message they wanted to give? For instance, Shimon HaTzadik Omer, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד, על התורה, על עבודה, על גמילות חסדים. Why is it that he says it? It's all Moshe Rabbeinu. Should have said Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני, and say all those Mishnayot from Moshe Rabbeinu, not necessarily from the tzaddikim that's written in the Mishnayot. What is the purpose of saying that Mishnah in the name of all these rabbis and going through all the rabbis throughout the generations of what they have said? And the answer is obvious, that at the time those rabbis were saying the message, that was what was needed for that generation. A generation was lacking at the time of those rabbis with those messages that were given to Moshe Rabbeinu, so therefore the rabbis of that generation would give it over and say it over and over again to their crowd of listeners, to the people of the generation, in order to emphasize the point they wanted to say. For example, when, for instance, Antigonus, Ish Socho, would speak, he would say, Al tihu ka'avadim המשמשים את הרב על מנת לקבל פרס. So that would be the message that was lacking at that generation, so therefore he would emphasize it. Apparently, in that generation, they would feel that people would work HaKadosh Baruch Hu, worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu for getting pras, for getting rewards. So he would say to them, no, that's not the ultimate reward, that's not the ultimate purpose of doing the mitzvot. Therefore, if that is the case, we need to try to see if those rabbis would live today, what would be the message they would give today? What would be designated for our generation? And in my humble opinion, it seems like the message of today is the very beginning of Pirkei Avot. Moshe kibel Torah miSinai, which means we have to look back and see what was given to us and not only look at the future. What do I mean? Today, the generation is overtaken by the progressive movement. And that progressive movement looks at the future and abandons the past. It's so much so that the leaders of this new generation are constantly involved speaking about the passage of time, the importance of passage of time, which means the future, abandoning the past. So much so that those leaders keep on saying that one should look at the future as what will be could be unburdened but what has been, which means whatever have in the future should be unburdened, it should be taken away, it should be abundant, and just look at the future to unburden that past. If that is the case, I think if the rabbis, the sages of those generations would live today, they would give us the message of Pirkei Avot, Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Don't abandon the past. Those messages of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are forever, and don't be taken over by the progressive movement. Shabbat Shalom.